Hi, welcome to another edition of How to 3D Street Paint with me, Tracy Lee Stubb. Today I'm going to show you a real simple drawing. We're going to be drawing a hole in the ground or a pit. It's very easy, it's organic, it doesn't take a lot of tools or a lot of forethought, so something you could just draw anywhere on the street at any given time with the way I'm going to show you. So stick around, hopefully you'll enjoy the lesson and have a good successful result at the end. Thanks. To begin my drawing, I'm going to get started on an organic outline that is loosely based on either a square or a circle. So as you can see, I'm coming down the left side of my image and it's irregular. I'm drawing dips and indentations in the line. Here I am coming down from the top to the right side and certainly just allowing myself to create images or curves or indentations that would look like they're actually chipped out of that concrete surface that I'm working on. And next what I'm going to do is create a small piece of stone that is not going to be part of the pit. It's actually going to be a freestanding stone column or stone section so that someone could actually stand on that or look like they're stepping onto it from the outside edge. So I'm just putting it in there randomly. I've decided I'm going to put it near the top. That way when I start drawing my perspective lines you can actually see how it works. Next I'm going to establish my viewing point again with my string and tape, and you can establish this anywhere at the back end of your drawing. I usually like to put it about 3 feet away from the bottom edge of my drawing, but in this case I brought it in a little bit closer just so I can show you some line work, some detailed line work. So once I've got that done, that's going to be my main tool as far as getting my perspective lines, or the lines that are going to make this image look like it's dropping down into the pavement. So you can see here I've lined it up with some of the key angles of that perimeter edge. And anywhere where that edge looks like it's dipping in or dipping out, that's where I'm going to actually draw a line. So using the string and using my drawing stick, I'm just loosely putting in some diagonal lines there that are going to key points again on the perimeter. As you can see, I've gone all the way around the perimeter edge and drawn my diagonal lines. And here I am drawing some lines from the pillar stepping stone down to my viewing point. And as you can see from this angle, all the lines look like they are dropping down kind of diagonally. And that's actually correct. All the lines are going back to our viewing point where the tape and the string are. And this is actually what you want to see when you're done with your line drawing. So now I'm ready to start putting in color. And how I'm going to do that is by starting with some basic mid-tone gray, dark gray, and light gray. My light source is coming from the left side, so I'm actually going to be putting in a medium gray where the sun is not hitting it directly but still receiving light. And I'm putting in a dark color there. You can see the planes that are dropping down with the dark color are either planes that are in full shadow or planes that are getting a cast shadow from the side walls. And then what I'll do is I'll move over to the other side and start putting in the medium gray and then the light gray where the sun is actually hitting the surface. So I'm not working from a reference, I'm just working from experience and memory here and just playing with it, but you'll see the result is actually quite successful when I'm finished. Like some kind of grouting that's not actually taking the chalk. So what I like to do to troubleshoot these areas is I mix up a little tempera. So I've mixed up a little bit of black and white tempera right here on a little palette, and I'm just going to touch that up with the paint like this. Just spot touch it with some of that color, and once that's dry I can go back in with the chalk, and then the chalk will stick to that area and it won't be noticeable at all. It's a great little fix. Okay. Okay, so now that I've finished filling in some basic color, I'm going to start putting in some detail into the rock surface in the background. And the way I like to do that is I like to create variation in the texture of the rock. So what I will probably do is just add some dark areas, like dropped in segments of color, kind of line work like this. Because once that's viewed in the camera, it's going to compress really small. So you won't see this as a line, you'll see it more like as a shape color. So I'm going to put a little bit of dark in here, and you see I'm roughly following the same contour of these lines that are running back to my vanishing point. Just putting random lines in like this, kind of crevicey, crack looking things. And we can go back in and highlight those later. Still keeping that basic direction back to the vanishing point. You can see I'm using the side of the chalk too. I'm not just using the tip, the point. It gives a nice organic mark as you're working. And of course I'm rubbing it in to create something like that. So you can see I've got some variation happening now in my wall here that's showing up. You might be wondering what this is. I'm not actually drawing on this. This is actually going to be a place where people will step onto the drawing to look like they're standing in the middle of this pit. So I'm just going to leave that undone, the top part of it. And as I come back here and start working on the lower section, I'm actually going to do the reverse that I did on the pit. I'm going to bring the light color on the left side, and I'm going to put the dark color on the right side. This way, this piece will look like it's standing up out of the pit. The sunlight's hitting it this way. So this is, think of this as like a concave kind of shape. This is a convex kind of shape. And the light actually hits it the opposite way. So now I'm just continuing with the dark and light grays and adding some variations to that rock formation as I'm moving down. And you can see that the little grout that was on the ground has been touched up with the tempera paint, and now I'm just going to go back in and chalk that a little bit and just get rid of it. So by the time I'm finished putting on some base color there to blend in the natural concrete with the existing concrete there, looks great. You can't really see that that grout is actually there on the ground. And I'm just going to continue with some variations, again, light tones. And on the light side of the pit, I'm not going to use super dark. I'm going to use like a medium gray to make the variation lines. And here's what we've got so far. We've got the dark on the left side of the pit and the light on the right side, and then light on the left side of the pillar, the stone column, and dark on the right side. That's correct. Now I'm going to put in some more detailed line work, and you can see I'm making cracks that are going across that pillar there. Usually I like to have the cracks making sense, so if they're going across horizontally on one side, you're going to try to mimic that on the other side. Oops, I've got a doggy in the picture. Here I am putting some like a nude color or a beige color on some of the rock to help blend that cool gray into a more of a warm color, so it matches some of our existing pavement. And you know, I'm just actually playing here. I'm really enjoying the color variations. I'm putting some brown into the stone there on the dark side, and of course I'll go back in and add black to pump up some of the detail on the edging and some of the crack work. Certainly you can really play with the variations in the stone. I like to put some purple in there for reflective light, as you can see. And using black at the end is really great because then it stays really crisp and really dark and doesn't get contaminated with other colors. So again, I put the whites and the very white whites and the very black blacks on at the very end. And I'm working down through the section, working my way as I go, and that way I don't have to step on the artwork, but you can see it's already starting to formulate as stacked stones that are cut in some way. And that's my pillar that's going to be freestanding in the middle of the pit. Once I've got most of the dark area finished, I want to go back in and use my black to just strengthen and make more visible the crack lines and the lines where the planes change. So I will pull out my string and use that again to determine where those lines should go exactly. You can see I'm just putting them in. Key points where they're hitting any kind of turn or indentation or protrusion from the perimeter edge. And I'm putting in some variations in color, also some vertical lines, slight vertical lines are coming at an angle that will show breaks in the rock. Really, it's just about getting some references and taking a look at those and how do rocks work, how do cracks work, and just having some freedom to play with that and understand how you like to create rock or concrete formations. And here you can see that I'm just about wrapping up this drawing. I'm moving down to the bottom and everything is condensing down as I move down to the bottom. And here's what I've got. It's a freestanding rock column that's coming out of this hole in the ground. And you can see on the back left and the left side of the painting there's some dark shadow areas that are dropping down on the light gray, and that's actually cast shadows from those planes where they change direction. And here I finally decided to put in the last little touches, which are the cracks. So it looks like this surface is actually cracking out of that concrete. Very kind of free and spontaneous crack lines. I like to make them a little bit darker where they actually hit the drawing, and then just kind of have the smaller bits coming out. You might want to look at some crack references to understand how they work, how the crack lines actually are created, because most of the time they're angular. There will be some slight curves sometimes, but not typically. Usually there's a lot of straight or angular marks because of the stone being brittle, let's say. But certainly I would investigate as many different stone types as possible and play with them and work something out that you like to draw. As you can see, I'm going around the entire perimeter, putting in my cracks, and then I'm putting some white highlights on the crack edges that are actually facing my light source. This gives the impression that light is hitting those areas and some of those cracks or surface changes actually pop up and pop down. And as you can see, the edge of the cliff there, or the edge of the pit, looks like it's dropping down into the ground. And here is our finished piece. And here is the back side of the image to see the distortion. And here's somebody playing on the painting.